In previous part of the lesson about JavaBean, you already learned what JavaBean is, and in that part you also learned an example that demonstrates the concept of what JavaBean is. And now in this part, to help you to understand more clearly about JavaBean, I would like to introduce another example in which I use a JavaBean to control the background color of a JSP page, and in order to do that I use several JSP tags: use bean, get property, set property. In this example, I have a bean class called BGBean, and I use this bean to control the background color of a JSP page. So how can we connect them together in a JSP page? Well, we use bean to connect them together, and bean has three attributes: class, ID, and scope. Class is the name of the class of the bean, and ID is the name of the bean, and this likes a variable name, and scope is the scope of the bean, which identify where you can access the bean. And in order to access the property of the bean, we can use set property and get property. And get property has two attributes, name and property. And name is the ID of the bean here, and property is the property name of the bean. And set property has four attributes: name, property, and value, and param. And for the name attribute, is similar to the name of the name attribute of the get property. And here property also similar to this one. Value attributes is used to set the value directly to the property, and param attribute is used to set the value to the property in a flexible way. That means you can get the value from the request parameter and set that value to the property. Now let's move to the real code. Here we have the BGColor.jsp page, and we have the BGBean class. And BGBean class has three properties: R, G, and B, and you can generate the property, generate the getter and setters for these properties using source, and generate getters and setters, and then after that you have the getter and setter here. So you can connect the bean class with this JSP page using use bean like this. And here notice that the scope is session, and session means you can access this bean within a session. And first of all, let's take a look at how we can control the background color first. So I comment out this one, and I open this one. So I run this. Okay, I run this application. Run as and run on server. Next, finish. Okay, so okay, you can type the name of the JSP BGColor.jsp, and you can see here the background color is green. So that's because red is 0 and blue is 0. So now let's change the green component is 0 and this one is 255, and let's run again, and you can see here the background color is red. So you can see that we can control the background color using this function red, green, blue, and in order to use bin, okay, we can comment out this one and we can use this one. Okay, and here you can set the property for the bin. Here we use set property and name equals bg and property is r and value is 250. So this line set the value to the property r, which means red. So let's run this again. So you can see here the background color is this, and why? Because at the beginning the red component is 255, and now we set the red component is 250. So you can okay, you can copy the link here, and you can go here and paste the link. Okay, you can view page source. You can see here the red component is 250 and the green component is 255. Remember that at the beginning this component is 255, so that's why now this component is 255 and this component is 250 because we set 250 to the red component. You understand that? So you can see that the get property here we have name equals bg, which is here and here, and property equals r, g, and b. So we get the properties from the bin, from this bin. Okay, we get the property red, green, blue. Okay, we get red, green, blue properties, and we pass those properties into this function, and by that way we control the background color of a JSP page. And now let's try another way. Okay, we can copy this and we can use this one. For example, param equals red. Then we refresh and Okay, nothing changed. So now we pass the parameter red equals for example 0. Then you can see here the value 0 is passed to the red property here. Okay, notice that we use param instead of value. If you use a value, then you set this value directly to this property, but here we use param, and that means we get the value of the request parameter name red and get the value of red request parameter and pass that value to this property and set that value to this property. And okay, you can change this one, for example 255, and so we have this. So now in order to control the three properties in the parameters, we can use like this. We can use this one, and here notice that we use star. That means all the properties. So if we use like this, then we can use r equal 25 and red green equal 0 and blue equal for example 0. Red equal red equals 255. Green equals, oh sorry, I need to save this one first. Okay, and refresh. Okay, you can see here you can control the background color of this JSP page using the parameters here, because here we set the star here, which means all the properties is set through the parameters. And notice that you have to use R, G, and B, which exactly the same as this one. Okay, so let's summarize several important points. So in order to connect the bean class to a JSP, we have to use bean tag. And in order to access the property of the bean, we can use get property, and by this slide the code, the Java code for this slide is like this. So this slide can convert to this line: bg equals new and then bean class, and then property equal r means bg dot get r. And notice that this one is the getter of the bean, get r here. Okay, and notice that the bean need to have a constructor that takes no argument. Why? Because this line, okay, this slide will be converted to this line. Okay, and that's why we need to have a constructor that takes no argument. So that's the end of this part of the lesson.